Hello, welcome. It's Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. Every week, I discuss the future of this region blessed with hydrocarbon resources. We give time, we reflect on topics relevant to the Niger-Delta and her development, and her people, of course. This episode, we're doing the same thing, focusing on how to take this region to a more promising future. The podcast is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC Renaissance Total Energies Active Joint Venture, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. We do appreciate your joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. Our topic for this episode, a silent storm, confronting diabetes. Today we mark World Diabetes Day, a global call to action against one of the most persistent and underestimated health challenges of our time. This year's theme is Diabetes Across Life Stages. A powerful reminder that diabetes doesn't discriminate by age. From childhood to older adulthood, it affects millions, often silently. Now, this year, we're shining a light on the realities of living with diabetes in our communities. We'll explore the barriers to diagnosis and care, the role of lifestyle and awareness, and the urgent need for stronger health systems and support. Because diabetes isn't just a medical condition, it's a social issue, a family issue, and a development issue. And confronting it requires more than medicine. It requires understanding, empathy, and action. Again, our topic for this episode of Canvas is the silent storm, confronting diabetes. And my guest, a recurring face on the podcast, and I'm pleased to have her here once again, Dr. Diane Babbo. Dr. Diane Babbo is a medical doctor working with the Rivers State government and currently serving as, or in the capacity of a state health educator at the Rivers State Primary Healthcare Management Board. Dr. Babbo, welcome once again to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you very much, Diane. It's good to be here.
Always. Before you arrived for this recording, I was talking with Donald, one of the producer, who uses facility for this recording. Okay. And I was saying that I'm looking forward to recording this because every time we have you on the podcast and we record an episode, you speak to the issues and as it affects people, not just that you know your audience, the subject matter, but you exude a certain level of passion, compassion, and empathy and connection with the subject matter as it affects people. Yeah. And that's why we're always glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the compliments too. I take that as compliments.
Oh, yes, it is actually.
Thank you.
In every sense.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So let's get to it then. World Diabetes Day. I may have asked you a question of this nature before. Okay. Why do, and I think I've said this not just to you, but other persons, especially when we have conversations around international observances. Okay. And I tend to think that there's an international day for just about everything.
That's true.
Why is it important to have international observances for medical conditions? Because nobody wants to be reminded of a medical condition, so to speak. It usually connotes some negativity. And why World Diabetes Day as well? Let's start from that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's just a way of us creating more awareness. Primary to prevention is education, knowledge, and that bridges the gap in seeking for care. So if more people know about diabetes or any other day that we actually pinpoint and celebrate or create awareness around, I think it's better for us. And then it helps people to, at that point in time, because everybody's talking about it, we now go for the investigations or the screening test or whatever it is we have talked about concerning that day. And then we find out things. So you notice that many people this period would have checked their blood sugar level. because we are told that it's World Diabetes Day, we should go and have ourselves checked and the rest of it. So it's important to create awareness. It will help us to catch early if there's any person that is not aware that they have diabetes, and then we can commence treatment and the other things that follow after it. Yes.
So two things that caught my attention from what you just said, the blood sugar level thing. We'll get to that shortly, in a moment. But the other thing you mentioned, which I want to go to next, is you draw a nexus between awareness and prevention. However, I'm no medical practitioner, but from my experience with relating with persons like yourself and drawing knowledge from different sources, there are certain ailments that may not be preventable for a number of reasons. There are some genetic conditions, hereditary. You can't do much about that. It's going to happen regardless of what you do.
That's true.
Is diabetes one such? And whether or not diabetes is, how does discussing this thing help to prevent? If it can help to prevent it, then what's the point anyways?
Okay, so yes, of course, there's a type of diabetes that happens, like you said, regardless whether or not I do anything about it, which is the type 1. Type 1 that we'll get to that, I hope, when we're discussing. So there's genetic factors, something is wrong with the pancreas, and the person is born with insulin insufficiency. So it's completely not there. And then they have to deal with sugar issues. Why should they know? Remember, okay, I've not talked about that, but we're getting to complications from high sugar levels. I need to know that my sugar level is high so that I don't get to the complications. And then I can manage it. It's not preventable, but can be managed. So if I catch it early, I will not deteriorate to the point of cutting off my leg. There are some consequences of cutting off your leg when diabetes comes into play. I will not deteriorate to the point of blindness or kidney failure, just because I know now that my blood sugar is high and I can do something to manage it. So that's why it's important. So I cannot prevent it because of genetics, but I can manage it and then not have complications from it.
So that takes us to the second part of what caught my attention earlier, when you mentioned, people checking their blood sugar levels, and you've repeated that again. What causes diabetes?
All right. So diabetes, by definition, is a chronic metabolic condition characterized by hyperglycemia, big English for high sugar level. And then certain symptoms like polyuria means frequent urination, polydipsia means excessive thirst, polyphagia means excessive eating, and then loss of weight. So you find the person eating all the time and losing weight. It doesn't make sense, does it? No. So that's the combination of it, and then it can lead to certain complications. So let me take us down to, I like going to the biology of it. Our body has a particular organ called the pancreas. The pancreas has certain set of cells inside called the islets of Langerhans cells. They are type A and type B. And then the hormones that are produced by type B is insulin. That by type A is glucagon. When you eat as a human being, the first thing that happens is that as the body is digesting, glucose is being formed. So from every meal you eat, be it fat, be it protein, be it actual carbohydrates, the last thing that is formed is glucose. When glucose is formed, it gets into the bloodstream. Insulin is ready to hear that glucose has entered the system. So it goes and mops the glucose, takes it to the cells where it is needed. So when it gets to the muscle cell, muscles can function. To the eye cell, the eyes can function. The brain cell, the brain can function. Any other part of the body that has cells needs glucose to function. Now, what happens in diabetes? There are different types. The first type is insulin is not produced at all. So all this thing I've said, when the person eats, glucose is formed. There's nothing to take glucose into the cells. That is when you now find glucose in the bloodstream. So when I draw blood and I take it to test, I will see glucose in the bloodstream at a particular level it should not be. Ordinarily, because we are eating and we are absorbing and we are digesting, metabolizing, there should be some level of glucose in your bloodstream. But it gets to a certain level that it ought not to be. And that is when we'll now say, okay, this is impaired glucose or this is actual diabetes mellitus. The second one is the insulin is being produced because the pancreas is functioning, but there's reduced sensitivity of the cells to actually get it. So it's as if it's being lazy. Insulin is lazy to take the glucose into the cells. So that's just a picture of what happens when the biology is altered. I asked me what level do we get to before we say it's high blood sugar. So the normal is 3.3 to 5.5 if I'm fasting. And the fasting is that my last meal was by 8 o'clock last night. And then I'm taken to the lab this morning between 8 o'clock and 10. I should have my blood sugar done. Why are we particular about that time? Is because another hormone kicks in, cortisol, that begins to alter our system as well. So any sugar I measure after 10 o'clock may not be so appropriate. It won't be fasting sugar that time. We'll now call it a random blood sugar. But eventually we'll catch you at any part of the day. It's not a fasting, it's called a random blood sugar. If it's above a certain level, which is 7, then we say something is going on, and the person is either having impaired glucose or actual diabetes mellitus. I don't know if I'm communicating.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So at the heart of it, of diabetes, talking about cause, is sugar.
It's impaired glucose.
Not sugar.
It's not sugar. Okay. It's not sugar. It's impaired glucose. Like I said,
yes.
Sugar is a compound made of glucose and glucose.
Okay.
There's one that's glucose and fructose. Then there's glucose and another thing. There are different categories, but in the end of every metabolic process when it comes to food, the last man standing is glucose. That's the one your body needs per time to function. So the problem is not sugar, it is glucose.
So it doesn't matter what amount of sugar I consume. It has no impact on whether or not I do come down with diabetes.
Okay, so now everything in moderation. So let's not go to whether or not sugar. We need to eat wisely. We need to drink wisely. So yes, it matters the amount of sugar you're putting into your system because you can fatigue insulin. Remember I had said what happens when you put food in your mouth is that the process starts with, let's break down what this man has eaten to glucose. Now, if I'm eating all the time, insulin keeps going up, trying to work. You and I are human beings. If you walk me too long, I get tired. Same thing happens to insulin. So when you walk it too long, it gets tired. And then when it gets tired, it's not doing the work again. At that point in time, glucose starts piling up in the bloodstream. So it matters the quantity of sugar you actually do take.
Okay. The thing for this year's observation of World Diabetes Day is diabetes across life stages. Yeah. What's the import of that?
Okay, we are beginning to find that not just adults have diabetes. We can find diabetes in adolescents, in children as well, in the pregnant woman. So it's important for us not to, in quote, touchlight it on as an adult disease because we have children as well that have diabetes and they may carry on without being screened at any point in time of their life. So it's important for caregivers, mothers, to know and watch out for certain things. Remember I had said it's characterized by excessive urination, excessive thirst, excessive eating, and an unusual loss of weight despite the amount of food the person is eating. So you notice your child always going to pee. Mommy, I'm thirsty all the time. You need to slow down and watch that child. And then remember that the more you drink water, the more you urinate. That's what ought to be. But you need to also check the child. So we are looking, like I said, I like to advise people to do annuals. And the annuals is not just for adults. Do an annual on your child as well. They check everything for the child. And amongst the things they will check is the blood sugar level of that child. And you can pick it at childhood. So that's important of the particular caption for the team, At every stage you find diabetes, it should be recognized, it should be diagnosed correctly, and it should be managed adequately. And what you find in the child is different, and the way you manage it is not the way you manage the person that is an adult. What you find in the pregnant woman is not the same way in the child. So you have to manage it as the stage of life demands.
You painted a grim picture earlier on when you were describing some of the consequence, but that was in response to a different question. So I'll ask directly now.
Okay.
What are the consequences of diabetes?
Yes. Okay, so now picture honey. Honey is, how do you call it, viscous. So it's slow to move when you pour it, is it not? Unlike water. Now, blood is supposed to be like water and flow through the veins. Imagine I pour something that looks like honey inside that particular mixture of blood in the blood vessels. It means the blood will go slower. When blood goes slower like that, there's a likelihood for clots to start forming, blood clots. And the clots may form and block major vessels. So the eye vessels, the vessels of the heart, the vessels of the brain, kidney vessels, and then the small vessels that supply the periphery. So they call them peripheral arteries. So the complications I want to paint are complications to the eye. Diabetes can cause blindness or visual impairment. Then, if it blocks vessels going to the brain, the person can have a stroke, cerebrovascular accident. Happens to the heart, the blockage, the clots, the person can have myocardial infarct. So from there, a heart attack. It happens to the kidneys, because we have two, maybe you may go along very well, and then it blocks the second kidney. The person comes down with renal failure and the end terminal renal disease. And then if it happens to the vessels that supply our limbs, the legs and the hands, that's when you have issues of foot ulcers and then leading to cellulitis infection and then maybe an option of amputating the limbs totally. So those are the picture of the complications that can arise from diabetes. Not very good, Abby.
No, like I said, a grim picture.
Very.
Quite grim.
Yes.
So is there a treatment for diabetes?
Yes, depending on the type of diabetes. So there are two forms. The first one is injectable using insulin. Remember that the deficiency there is insulin. Like I said, some people are born and they don't produce it at all. Some people have used lifestyle to exhaust the insulin, so the insulin cannot do its work in the body to push glucose in. So injectable insulin has been found and formed and can be used to complement the body to do what it needs to do when somebody eats. The second one is called the oral hypoglycemic drugs. So what that does is, because there's some insulin in the body, but there's reduced sensitivity of the cells to the insulin, it helps the cells to become a bit more sensitive to insulin that's available, and then insulin can do the work to drive glucose in, and then the body uses it to function. So those are the two treatments. And then let's go to prevention. The person has foot ulcers. Foot ulcers can be managed to a point where it cannot be managed. The foot can be taken off, or the limb can be taken off.
Is there a cure for diabetes?
I would not say these are cures. I would say these are management protocols. So it can be managed.
Can a person still live a normal life if you come down with diabetes?
Sure. So the trick of treatment is stick with your treatment. Stick with what the doctor told you to use. So if you do stick with your treatment, you can function normally. And then you will not come down with complications. And then there's a part of regular monitoring. So it's good for you to have a glucometer, so to say, at hand if you are a diabetic. And then if you have the courage to prick yourself, because it entails having to prick yourself to check your sugar, maybe once in every 2 days. Every morning you check, So regular glucose monitoring is also key to the management of diabetes.
This is just a lot, right?
Sorry.
Right? This is just a lot right now, really. Early on, you talked about people who have used their lifestyles to wear out insulin. What lifestyles are you referring to? Okay,
so I'm talking of the foodies. There are people that eat and eat and eat. Then alcohol. Alcohol is your calories in liquid form. And some people can be here and down 6 bottles, 10 bottles, 1 full crate, and they're just having a happy hour. And then sedentary lifestyle. The more we are seated in one place, sitting is the new smoking these days. Everybody sits. You sit to your house, you sit to your car, you sit at work. Nobody wants to do anything that requires moving your legs or moving your body. So a sedentary lifestyle, smoking, for example. So all these are lifestyle that doesn't encourage the pancreas to do its work. So you have insulin being fatigued if you do any of these things I'm saying. When you eat a lot, you overwhelm insulin. When you drink your calories, you overwhelm insulin. When you're sedentary, the fat begins to coordinate itself around the belly region, and that is bad fat. So it begins to send some other triggers into the body. So cortisol is high, the body is looking like it's under stress. Insulin is trying to get glucose out. It's doing that a lot, and it's going to get tired doing it. So there's just so much when it comes to lifestyle. Like I said, moderation is key. If we can do everything in moderation, get into balance, I'm sure we'll be fine.
So the next time someone's friends are hailing him for downing, he does 7 bottles in one sitting.
You should be careful. Yes.
He's like Egungun going to the express route.
Exactly.
Should be careful.
Exactly, should be careful.
How widespread is diabetes in the Niger-Delta and even beyond in the Nigerian state?
Okay. Well, I would say it's something that it cuts across Niger-Delta, cuts across Nigeria. I don't know if you listened closely. Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Adeze Ore, and the team from the non-communicable disease departments at the Ministry of Health, we are across the LGAs with our River State Contributory Protection Health Program, and what they did was ensure that to mark World Diabetes Day, we had people test to know their, in quote, status. So you pick a lot of people. We did pick a lot of people. We don't have the complete result yet because it's just a few. It was done within the week. But we'll get to know out of the many people we tested, how many actually had impaired glucose level, and then how many were actually diabetes. And then we'll see that really it's quite a figure going across.
I know you said it cuts across, and that's the whole essence of this year's theme. But are there certain age groups or communities that are more prone to coming down with diabetes?
Let me not say more prone, because risk is there for, like I said, all age groups. So it just, for me, I would say, let's keep a keen eye on everybody. Let's keep a keen eye on everybody. The child may be born and have some form of pancreatic insufficiency, and the child may not know, and the parents may not know. The adolescent may be trying some things here and there, cigarettes, alcohol, and doesn't know it's overwhelming his pancreas, and then come down with it. The adults, sitting down and then being sedentary, is not the best, not checking him or herself, may not know. So let's keep a keen eye on everybody. There's no age group that will say, this is who is having the disease burden more. No, everybody is important for us to keep a close watch on.
Mm. What does living with diabetes look like?
I would have loved to say it's challenging, but if you have a good physician that has sat across the table with you, because these days we've gone beyond medicalizing diabetes. We are now saying personalize it or individualize care tailored to you. So if you have a good physician that has sat across the table with you and interface with you about the condition called diabetes that may be in that individual, it will be likely that you can cope with it. So you'll be told things like how to monitor your sugar. You'll be told things like the kind of food to eat, or the way to eat your food rather, because not the kind of food. Those days was eat beans and unripe plantain. That one is malnutrition. Yes. So we'll be told the kind of food, the way to eat your food. You'll be told food care, what to do every morning when you wake up, because most people you find in the hospital that end up with amputated limbs, it's poor food care. So you'll be told by your physician these things. Or if you know what to do, what drugs to take, when to take it, then I don't see what the challenge will be in coping with it. I would say you shall know the condition you are in, so you should just step up to it. You are not like everybody else, so you need to be more aware and more responsive when it comes to your own health as a diabetic.
That sounds like a lot of work.
When you do something that's routine, it becomes habit. So at the point in time, if you are the one that is asked to jab insulin, you will get used to jabbing insulin and then it becomes normal to you. If you are the one that they want to check your foot every day, you get used to every morning. So the morning you don't check, something is wrong. I didn't do my routine this morning. What's off? You know that something is missing and you go and do it. So once it's a routine thing for you to do, I would say maybe the first 2-3 years may be a task, but with support and then with your doctor's checking in on you or you checking in on your doctor about your condition. And by the time you see the improvements between when you were diagnosed and as you started taking the drugs, because you will see improvements. Some persons have attested to that sudden blurriness of the vision. It's glaring. When you see the improvements, you will use your drugs, you will stick to the lifestyle.
I'm sure support is key to all of this, and we'll come to support in a moment. But one more question before we go for a break. I've heard that there are myths and certain misconceptions that people have regarding diabetes. What are some of those?
Like the one you just said, sugar. Sugar is the cause of diabetes. Okay, like I said, it's not sugar that causes diabetes. I've just narrowed it down to the biology of it. And then the fact that even beans, when you eat it, becomes glucose. So it's not a sugar problem. Some persons may want to say this constant urination is an infection. That's another issue there. So because you're urinating all the time, you go and do urinalysis and urine microscopy. Meanwhile, you should have just gone to check your blood sugar as well. So those are some of the things you can play around it. Or when you have that injury in your leg, they say you have match poison. And then the wound is not going because you match poison. Rather, it's because your sugar, because diabetes does not allow the wound to heal. If you have a poorly controlled sugar level, wounds don't heal well. So they'll be like, you've matched poison, your village people have come, so you need to get something done traditionally, to appease. Meanwhile, it's just poor blood sugar control. So those are the things I think I want to highlight.
It is Canvas at the Niger-Delta Roundtable. Dr. Diane Babbo is here. We are having a conversation on this year's observation of World Diabetes Day. Do stay with us. The conversation resumes in a bit.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back. Still Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable brought to you by Renaissance. I'm Dyer. We're discussing the silent storm confronting diabetes. And this is in commemoration of World Diabetes Day. Thanks for joining once again. My guest, Dr. Diane Babbo, is still here. Doctor, welcome again.
Thank you.
You talked about support earlier on, and I said we'll come to it at some point, because the whole, from the conversation so far, it's pretty obvious, I suppose, that diabetes alters a person's lifestyle.
Yes.
Significantly. And to adjust to that, I tend to think that one would require a lot of support from people around them. So what kind of support do people living with diabetes require?
Okay, so like I said, we are tending to individualized or personalized care. So the people in your house with you, maybe your family members, would need to understand that you need to jab with the insulin. And then, so if you keep your syringes probably in the fridge, they ought not to go and use it on themselves as well. Then in terms of food or feeding, like I mentioned, is how to eat your food, not necessarily the type. So the balanced diet is always important, your proteins, your carbs. So for the man who has a wife, she should know that when you lay the table for the client that is our patient, protein should be on the meal, vegetables are there, carbs are there, some fruits, then your glass of water. And then if you have friends that are always drinking, it's good for you to stop hanging out with those friends. Those are not your support group. Then your clinician, the nurses and the endocrinology units, those are your friends. So you may not reach out to the doctor and succeed, but the nurses in the unit as well, you can have somebody's phone contact. In case there's something you observe you don't like, they are there for you to also partner with. Then we on this side that are in the preventive medicine space, there are different groups that you can join. CSOs, that their key focus is non-communicable diseases. You can be a part of that, and also not just for your own care, because you also want to be someone that speaks for people being aware of something like this happening and then how it can be prevented. So it goes hand in hand.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that even larger society, people beyond even the groups you've described just now, total strangers, I think at some point can provide some support as well. Because some of these jabs you talk about, you may have to be taken in public spaces, I think. And then you need for people to understand that there's nothing strange about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not look at the person funny.
Yeah.
And also even, I think, security agencies and their agents as well. So when they find certain substances with people or syringes and syringe-looking objects as well, you don't think, you don't think funny. And then you understand that this person is dealing with this is this, and that is that. Yes. So they need to have the knowledge of that also.
In certain climes, there's what we call the diabetes card, so you have it on you all the time. So some persons may overjab, and then your blood sugar crashes, and then you pass out. So usually the first thing we do before the CPR is to search if the person has a card on the person. So if you have a card, it means that the person is diabetic, and then our mind goes to it's either he has overjabbed. And so the first thing to do is provide him with something glucose to support in some climes. Some places here too in our region, some clinicians have that initiative to give clients that diabetes card. So it identifies you as a diabetic. So nobody is looking at you funny when you are bringing out your syringe or when you are flying, for example. I'm a diabetic. So they allow you pass with certain, and then you have clearance, you bring out your drugs. They are also educated at the aviation centers to see these drugs are for this particular group of persons. Yeah. So because you won't say, I'm diabetic, let me pass with all the drugs I'm carrying. You may carry something else. So they are trained to also know what drugs are for these diabetic clients and then let it fly.
What kind of support systems need to be put in place in certain public spaces, say like schools, workplaces, to provide support for diabetics?
Yeah, so mentioning the school now brings me to teacher education. So the teachers, that child may not be able to jab him or herself. So he's really at the mercy of his teacher at the time he may need to take that jab. So we should also have that kind of awareness creation for certain schools, school owners, that may have this kind of children in their schools for the assistance with giving the drugs when it is time. Some children may get to the point where they can do it on their own. For the workplaces, we can have maybe people don't just create spaces to go and take jabs. So most times, if you want to do something very private, use the restroom. So you can do that. And then some restrooms have cameras. So there should be sort of like policies to say so and so conditions can be excused, because you could be seen bringing out a needle and then be thought to be taking something else. So policies like that can be in place in the workplace. What other institution did you mention? Well, I think that just summarizes, yes.
Yeah. I think that maybe trainings as well for teachers, for school heads, for certain people in workplaces, to help attend to emergencies if they do arise.
True.
You talked about the Commissioner for Health in Rivers State going about doing certain things. I think maybe they could liaise with the Ministry of Education as well to provide trainings for head teachers or other teachers and school attendants and things like that.
Sure.
Government. What role can government play in improving care for people who are down with diabetes?
I'm happy you said government because it will just help me buttress what I just said earlier about the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Adesi Uri, and her team from the Non-Communicable Disease Department of the Ministry in collaboration with RIFCHIP. You know, we have an insurance protection agency in Rivers State. They went as far as in all the LGS, liaising with all the focal persons in NCD. That's what it's called, non-communicable disease. They provided testing strips, testing personnel. So government is doing something, you know. And aside from that, RIFCHIP is also one place where we can key into. So the diabetic can be registered under RIFCHIP and have their treatment free. So she or he won't need to worry about cost of insulin, cost of the drugs, cost of care, because he's under the insurance program called the RIFCHIP. So that's a plus for what government is doing. And then government is also here, like myself, I'm here to create the awareness, you know, at every point in time that we need to speak up, we do speak up and get people to know.
Are there any promising initiatives or, you know, that you're aware of or community-led initiatives, or even if it's government-led or initiatives of any kind that's, or maybe you may have mentioned already, you could expand on it, that's helping to provide support to people living with diabetes?
So just to sing the praises again of RIFCHIP. Yes, we have an insurance protection policy for health in Rivers State.
I think you can't overstate that. Please go ahead.
Yes, so and that is one place where I think people can key into. We are begging people to register for it, you know. So we need people to come and get registered or get enrolled. Whenever we have days like this, we also need people to key into the testing. I know that personnel went into the LGS, went to the communities, mobilized people to come out and test. And you would see that some persons wouldn't have come out to test. These are opportunities that I think are golden. So for me, if I want to say one laudable project that would have or can improve healthcare is the RIFCHIP program. So just to use it to, let's just say, buttress the point of let's key into the RIFCHIP and then insurance.
Is the management of diabetes expensive?
Yes, when you think about the insulin, when you think about the drugs, when you think about regular monitoring, the glucometer is not cheap. Acquiring the strips are not cheap. When you think about follow-up you need to do in the hospitals, you know, you need to go every time and you need to pay. Sometimes we need to pay out of your pocket because it's a private place you are going to, you want the convenience and all that. I know it can't be that cheap.
Which once again underscores the importance of having insurance.
Yes,
with RIFCHIP is offering.
Yes. So, I mean, I think it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if you can speak to RIFCHIP's activities or how health insurance works. However, I know that I have heard, maybe no is the wrong term to use, that there are challenges with insurance when it comes to what is referred to as pre-existing conditions. Is diabetes a pre-existing condition, and does it in any way affect insurance cover?
No, for the RIFCHIP insurance cover, we don't have that clause of you have a pre-existing condition or not. And we are willing to cover the health challenges you have as a person. So we're looking at children under 5, we're looking at pregnant women, we're looking at the elderly. That one you enroll for free. For anybody else in between, there's a cost and a package. So there are different packages, just like any HMO will give you this package A, package B, gold, platinum, silver. So you pick the package that you want, and then it covers you. So we don't have any clauses. We don't have a clause.
Now, I'm sure that there are some well-meaning listeners, Niger-Deltans, Nigerians right now, and who try to lend a helping hand, try to provide support for different causes. And someone might be listening right now and saying, oh, I'd like to provide some support, and I'm looking for a cause to latch on to. Helping provide support for diabetes can be one of them. So how can the listener help join in providing support? What can they do for people living with diabetes?
Okay, because I am government, I would naturally say to get into the government space, I think a letter of introduction of who you are as an organization, what your vision is, what your mission is, and what you can contribute to this particular cause will suffice. And then when we do an interview to screen, we can say, okay, this particular group of people can partner with us in this respect. So it could be the drugs, it could be the testing, it could be the nutrition part of it, it could be the awareness creation part of it, whatever it is. You need to state it in your letter, and then we as government can take it up from there. But as an individual, I'm sure that there are different societies. So there's the Endocrine Society of Nigeria. I think I'm getting it right. So those group of persons are like physicians whose particular job it is, or is it to look at an individual's chemicals, hormones, how the body works, is there balance? And then they have conferences and the rest of it. So you can partner with that group of physician and physician association, and then also give your inputs through that route. So it's either through that or through government, or maybe if there's any other standalone organization that they want to partner with, that's also fine.
Since there are hereditary considerations in whether or not a person has diabetes or comes down with diabetes, can it be taken for granted that if a person's parent or parents have diabetes, it's inevitable that a child will have diabetes also?
Okay, so like I said, it's good to always check. So whenever we do history taking in medicine, there's always a part of family history. So ask, is there anybody in your family that you know has diabetes? So if father has diabetes, mother has diabetes, it's good to always put an eye on the child. And like I would say, do an annual check every year to know how is this child's blood sugar looking, so that you can catch it early. Because you may not necessarily go and search the pancreas to know that something is going on wrong there. But it starts manifesting as high sugar level, and that is the one you can catch. So if you start screening that child early, because parents know that they are like this, and they know that they have produced a child, and it's likely that that child may have something off, they need to start checking on time, and then they catch it on time, and then everybody is on the page of let's manage it and then ensure that this child has a normal life.
And maybe finally, there may be some person who's just been informed that they have diabetes. And I don't think that's, first, that definitely is news nobody would like to hear. And we all deal with these things. You know, we have different threshold levels handling bad news. So there's some person who might be thinking right now that their life is over. Either because of what they've heard or what they may have seen from somebody else who's come down with diabetes or has it. What message do you have for, so two classes of persons, someone who may have recently discovered they have diabetes or suspects they might have diabetes, and person who is for a while has been living with diabetes? What message do you have for them?
Okay, so I would like to say it's not a death sentence. Nothing is a death sentence that has protocols for management. So I've said here that diabetes gets individualized, it's personalized. You need to have a good physician, first of all. You need to be aware that there are complications that you don't want to happen to you, second of all. The next one is you need to have a good dietitian or somebody to monitor or teach you how to eat your food. Like I said, it's not really what to eat, it's how we are eating our food. You need to start getting active. So we recommend exercises, 30 minutes a day, at least 5 times a week. It helps increase sensitivity of insulin in the body. You need to also, drugs. You need to know what drugs to take, when to take your drugs, and then follow it through. Like I said, somebody may overdo insulin. So if you have not eaten, jab yourself. That's not good, because whatever sugar is in the system will just crash. So there are things they will tell you, how to take your drugs, when to take your drugs. You need to follow through on that course. And then for foot care, like I said, we are going to teach the person how to monitor the leg all the time. because most diabetics can't feel their legs. It damages the nerves of the hands, nerves of the leg. So if there's a wound there, you will not know except you check. So all this personalized, individualized care is something that's, it may look cumbersome initially, but when you master the routine, it becomes a part of you. And there's a point in time you have that stable level of glucose we are looking for, and there are no unnecessary spikes, and then we are good, So lifestyle, medicine, nutrition, and then continuous health education and awareness. You telling yourself every day that you have the condition, it's not a death sentence, and you can actually live with it and function properly with it. I think that we are good.
Let me ask you this as well. I just thought this right now as you were responding. So that's for people who are living with diabetes. How about someone who's suddenly realized that a person that they're friends with or they're colleagues with, or even someone that they may be about to date or get married to has diabetes? What message do you have for them?
Be empathetic. Empathy. It could be you. So if you want to jump out of the boat with your friend or somebody you are trying to relate to because of diabetes, what if tomorrow you come down with it? So you need to give support, like we said, support them to achieve normal glucose level and normal life functioning, because they can't live a normal life. It doesn't impair anything at all. So let's not, we say don't hate, don't stigmatize, just provide the support that they may need. And then who knows, just because you are there, the person may take that courage and say, okay, let's get to life head on.
The Silent Storm, Confronting Diabetes, has been the subject matter of our discussion this episode of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, in commemoration of World Diabetes Day. As expected, my guest, Dr. Diane Babbo, has shed enormous light on this and broken it down to the basics. Doc, many thanks once again for coming by.
Thank you.
And thank you as well. And remember, if you're living with diabetes, it's not the end of the world. You can still live a very fulfilled life. And if you know someone living with diabetes, just provide support. That's all that they need. Thank you once again. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Diane Babbo, and bye for now.